Hello guys and welcome back to our last video of our Facebook cloning application, and over here we will be integrating the front-end UI with the back-end design that we have done over here. So in our first video tutorial you have seen that how efficiently and how incrementally we have cloned each and every component of our Facebook UI, starting from building the sign-up process till the homepage of our UI. And in our next video you have seen that we have developed the complete backend support using the Spring Boot application, where we have used the NoSQL database, that is Cassandra. And here in this video, we will be seeing that how we will be integrating front-end UI with our backend code. And at the end, we will be done with the entire cloning of the Facebook application. So without wasting much time, let's start with this video where we will be integrating the front end of our application with the backend code. So over here in this video, we will be learning how to integrate this front end with our backend service, starting from building our login page where we will be using the Firebase Authentication for establishing the login mechanism, and after that whatever the user metadata we receive from the Firebase application, we will be saving it in our Cassandra database so that we can use those metadata of the user within our application. And after that we will be implementing our status and the post service where we will be using our external storage database, and that is the Firebase storage. And over there we will be uploading user images and all the posts that are uploaded by the user, because saving an image into our own database will be a troublesome work because we have to implement lot of logic for the compression and the decompression of the images. So rather it is better to use an external service, that is the Firebase storage application, for uploading our images over there. So in this video we will be dealing with entire end-to-end integration of our Facebook application, and at the end we will be seeing a full-fledged working Facebook application which you can easily host into your cloud hosting server. So let's start with today's video of full stack development with integrating the front-end UI with the backend REST API service. So without wasting much time, let's start with this video of setting up the authentication mechanism for our Facebook app. So over here you can see our Facebook app have a login mechanism, and over here we have created two panels. One is for sign in and another is for sign up. So let's first create the login mechanism over here, and after implementing this we will move to our next page, and that is the home page for our Facebook application. So over here, to establish the login mechanism, we will be using the Firebase authentication system. So without wasting much time, let's start with creating an account on our Firebase service. So we'll go to internet and we'll search for the Firebase application. So in our first video, I have already shown you that how to create a Firebase account as well as project into our Firebase application. So let's start with utilizing that new application that we have created on the Firebase platform. So let's go to the console over here, and over here we have landed on our Facebook clone application. So let's go to the authentication service that we will be using for our Facebook authentication, and let's click on get started to start the authentication process. So over here each and every user of our Facebook will authenticate themselves by using the email ID and password, and that is why over here I will be using the email password as our sign-in provider. So let's click on this first option and let's enable this option over here. So over here you can see the email and the password mechanism for the authentication service got enabled over here. So without wasting much time, let's start with implementing the sign up mechanism for our Facebook authentication. So this will be more or less the same way we have implemented the Instagram authentication system. So if you have already watched my previous video where I have cloned the entire Instagram application, you can feel free to skip this part of this video, because this will be more or less same for both the application. But if you are new to this video, feel free to stay over here and let's learn together that how we should implement the authentication mechanism over here and how we will be integrating the Firebase authentication system over here. So the thing that you can see over here, that for a particular user to sign up into our Facebook, he or she needs three primary attributes. One is the name, second is the email ID, and the third is the password. So let's first get this name, email ID and password as our input for sign up. So what we'll do, we'll go to our code, and over here you can see for the sign up component over here, I have created three forms elements. Number one, a login input for the name, another one for the email ID, and the last one for the password. And over here I have a sign up button, and on click of this sign up button, the user should be able to authenticate and create a new user for their Facebook application. So let's first implement that activity. So to capture the text that will be provided by the user, first we need to create few state variables. So over here first I will be creating three state variables for capturing the sign up user ID, name and the password for the user. So here you can see I have created three variables for capturing the name, email and the password during the sign up mechanism. So let's first capture these values over here. So for that what we will do, we will be attaching our on-change listener over here. So let's implement that. And that's it. So over here if you just see the code what I have written, so here you can see on this input text box I have attached a on-change listener, which means that whenever a user is pressing a key over here, there is a change that is happening on this text box, and as soon as a change is happening on the text box, the value that is provided by the user is getting captured over here, which is event.currentTarget.value, and it is assigning it to our state variable that is name. And in this way we have to capture the value of each and every text box over here. So let's implement the similar activity for the email and the password. So over here also let's capture the user text in the variable called as sign up email, and over here also let's capture it for the sign up password. And that's it, we got all the user credentials that we need for creating our sign up activity. Now over here, as we have got all the credentials of a user, let's create the mechanism of sign up. So what we'll do, on clicking of this button, we will capture all these values from the input text box and we will send it to our Firebase application for the validation purpose. So what we'll do, over here on clicking of this button, that is our sign up button, we will be calling a function called as sign up. And let's create a sign up function at the top. So hopefully this makes sense to you right now. So let's over here write the mechanism of the user authentication. And for that we have to include the Firebase dependencies into our project. So let's import the Firebase into our project. So what we'll do, we first have to go to Google and we have to see the command for installing the Firebase into our application. So to install the Firebase into our application, the simple command is npm I Firebase. So let's copy it from here and let's paste it into our project. So this will take a couple of minutes or so. So let's wait for some time over here. So here you can see we have successfully installed the npm packages for our Firebase application. Let's now start with creating the connection between this local setup and the Firebase application that we have on the internet. So let's start with creating a configuration file for the Firebase application. So what we'll do, over here on the root of the application, I will be creating a file called as firebase.js, where I will be creating all the necessary connections that we need for setting up a connection with the Firebase application. So let's create a file over here. And let's over here set up the connection for our Firebase application. So first what we have to do, we have to import the Firebase from the package. And over here we have to give the credentials that we need for connecting to the Firebase application. So let's get the credential for this. So for that we will go to the Firebase application and over here we will select the project. And from here we will go to the Firebase documentation. So if you see that there is a link called as go to docs. So which will open a documentation page for Firebase, which will tell you how to set up the Firebase application for your project. So this is a pretty simple and easy process to do. So let's start with implementing this. So for that first we will go to the Firebase fundamental, and over here we need to first select the platform for which we want to connect. So over here, since we are creating a web platform, that's why we have to select web over here. So let's click it And over here you can see we have landed to the page which talks about the setup for the Firebase application. So let's go down and let's get the setup string that we need for our connection. So over here you can see it's telling that we have to import the Firebase into our project, which we already did. So we can skip all these steps. And also over here you can see it is mentioning that we have to import the Firebase SDK into our project, which we already have done. Let's move to the next step, and that is the Firebase initiation stage. So for that, what we will do, we will copy this step from here and we will paste the configuration over here. So here you can see that the Firebase is getting initialized with the configuration file that we will be providing over here. So let's give the configuration over here. So the format or the sample of the configuration will be something like this. So over here you can see that the Firebase has already provided a sample configuration by which we can connect to the Firebase application. So this information you can also get it from our project detail. So let's go back to our project, and first over here we will create the two services that we need for our Firebase theme. So number one service that we need over here is the authentication mechanism. So over here for authentication, we have to create a web project over here. So we will click on web, and over here we need to register the app that we are creating over here. So let's give the app name as Facebook Clone App. Let's click on register app, and over here you can see we got the necessary configuration file for our Firebase application. So let's copy this connection string from here and let's paste it over here. And that's it. We are done with establishing the connection with our local project. So let's save it over here and let's move to our console. So over here you can see we have already registered our app over here, which is known as Facebook Clone App. Let's now move to our setup file and let's complete the setup over here. So the only thing that we need over here, we need to export the Firebase connection from here so that we can import it from where we will be using the Firebase functionality. So let's go to our authentication mechanism. So let's import the Firebase library at the top. Now, since we are done with every setup for the Firebase application, let's now see how we can send the metadata and how we can authenticate a particular user to the Firebase application. So we'll again go to our Firebase application, and over here let's get the documentation for the authentication mechanism. So over here we will again go to our next documentation, that is for the establishing the connection. So if you want to leverage any of the functionality of the Firebase, you can easily do so by going to the in-depth documentation provided by the Firebase application. So let's type over here as authentication, and over here you can see we have landed to the Firebase authentication documentation. So let's go to the web over here, and since we are doing an email validation, that is why over here we have to select the password authentication, and over here we'll get the code for our authentication service. So over here you can see this is a pretty simple code that we need to implement into our JS file for the authentication mechanism. So what we'll do, so in case of the sign up, we have to call the function that is create user with email ID and password, which means over here using the Firebase library, we are trying to create a new user by taking the corresponding email ID and the password. And in case of the login, that is for the sign in, we have to call our next function that is signing with email ID and password. So these are the two simple functions that we need to call from our UI for the authentication mechanism. So let's use all these things and let's see how the things works over here. So the first thing that we will be implementing is the sign up policy. So we'll copy this code from here and we will paste within our sign up mechanism. That is the function that we have created over here. So you can see it is quite a straightforward activity that over here you need to call the Firebase functionality by providing the email ID and password over here. But how we will get the email ID and password? This email ID and password is nothing but the email ID that we have captured over here. So let's pass these two things from here. And let's click on save. So I believe you have easily understand the flow. So as soon as a user clicks on the create new account, he is getting an interface for creating a new account for our Facebook app. Over here he can provide the name, email ID and the password, and he can click on sign up. And as soon as the user clicks on sign up, we are capturing those value in the variable that we have mentioned over here, and we are passing that email ID and password to our Firebase authentication system. And if the user gets successfully authenticated from our Firebase application, the Firebase application will send a user credential into its parameter, where we will get the metadata of the user who is actually signing up with our platform. And over here, the metadata that we are receiving as our response to our Firebase authentication, we will be saving this user metadata into our local database that we have created as our Spring Boot API service. So if you have remembered, on our last video, we have created a user service API. By using that, we will be saving all the metadata of the user, such as user ID, username, the image, the activity status, and the joining date of the user into our backend service, so that at the time of further login, we can use this user metadata and we can show it to the user. So I hope you got the end-to-end flow how we are working over here. So let's run this application and let's see how the things are working over here. So let's save it and let's go to our application. So the first thing that I will be doing is I will be going to the sign up mechanism. And over here, for the debugging purpose, I will be putting a breakpoint on the method that I have created over here for the sign up activity. So this is the method which is responsible for the user sign up. So let's over here put some dummy credential and let's see whether we can actually create a new user on our Facebook platform or not. Let's click on sign up and let's see whether everything is working fine or not. So as soon as I clicked on sign up, you can see we landed up into our sign up functionality, where over here in the parameter, we are sending the email ID and the password which have been provided by the user as a login credential. So let's run this and let's see whether these things work. And if this request gets successfully validated on our backend, that is on our Firebase application, then at the line number 32, we will be getting a response from the Firebase application with the user credential. Otherwise, it will go to the catch block defined over here. So let's resume the activity from here and let's see what is happening. And great, you can see we landed into our success block, which means that the user have successfully created an account into the Firebase application. Means whatever the connection string that we have provided into our setup file was actually correct, and the internal setup that we have created just now was also fine. So let's see what are the data that we are getting as our metadata over here. So you can see over here we are getting a huge amount of metadata from our Firebase application. So there is a request token, a user ID, some credentials, and lot of things. So from this huge set of metadata, we will be actually saving only few of the metadata into our backend service. So let's now go to the Firebase application and let's see whether the user got created or not. So over here on the Firebase application, under authentication, we will click on refresh, and over here you can see we got the first user for our Facebook, and that is anindodummy@gmail.com. And this is the user ID for this corresponding user. So this is the basically primary key that we will be using across our entire platform for identify this particular user within our app. So this user ID, that is the UID over here, is actually a useful item for our application. So if we want, we can use this user ID or we can create our own user ID for our application. So that is totally our way of implementation. So I hope until now you have thoroughly got the concept that how should we create the sign up mechanism by using the Firebase application. Let's now do the second activity, and that is the sign in for the user. So what we'll do, again we'll go to our code, and over here we will create the next module, and that is the sign in module. So the first thing that we have to do, we have to capture the email ID and the password provided during the login mechanism. So we'll again create two state variable over here. And over here on the input text box, we will be providing a on-change listener just the way we have provided over here. So let's copy it from here. So one for the text box for the email ID and one for the password. And let's change the state variable over here. So since this will be used for sign in, we will be setting the values within the sign in email variable. And that's it. We are done with capturing the values provided by the user. Let's now create an on-click listener for the login button. And let's call it a sign-in method. So let's create the functionality at the top. And over here, let's write the logic by which we will be authenticate the user that have already signed up into our Firebase application. So what we will do, again, we'll go to our Firebase documentation and we will get the code for the sign-in. So this is the code for our sign-in user. So let's copy it and let's paste it over here. So again, we have to pass the email ID and the password for our authentication. So let's pass the email ID. And great, we are done with both the sign up and the sign in for our user platform. So let's now test this functionality and let's see what is happening over here. So we'll go to our application. So over here you can see we got the both functionality, that is both the sign in and the sign up over here. So let's provide a breakpoint over here for testing purpose so that you can understand that what is actually happening behind the scene. So what I will be doing over here, I will be trying to log in to our application using the same credential by which we have created our account over here, which is anindodummy@gmail.com. So let's provide the user ID and password over here. Let's click on login. And you can see as soon as I clicked on login, I went inside the login method. And over here you can see this is the email ID which I have typed over here, and this is also the password that I have written over here. So let's resume this execution. And great, you can see we got successfully validated by the Firebase application, which means that the user ID and the password that we have provided over here is correct for this user credential written. So over here we have to write our own logic by which a user can move to our next page, and that is the home page. So that we will do after a while. Let's now test for one more user ID and let's see whether it is actually working or not. So let's over here change the password a bit. So right now I have given a wrong password with the corresponding email ID. So if I right now click on login, the Firebase authentication system should provide me a negative feedback, means it should not authenticate the user and it should come into the catch block saying that the user credential that you have provided over here is wrong. So let's test that feature also. And great, you can see we are in the catch block, and over here you can see we are getting a meaningful message that the password we have provided over here is wrong, which means great, our authentication system is working as expected. And over here we have successfully built the authentication mechanism for our Facebook application. So here you have seen that how easily by using the Firebase authentication mechanism we have created the sign up and the sign in mechanism for our Facebook clone app. Let's now see how we can use the metadata that we are getting in the response and how we will be saving those metadata using the REST API endpoints that we have created in our previous video. So let's move forward and integrate the user entity service that we have created over here. So over here you can see our backend service, that is our REST API, which we have created by using the Spring Boot application, is up and running on 8080 port. So let's use the user service that we have created over here. So we'll first log into our Cassandra database and let's log into the database that we have created for our Facebook backend service. So the key space or the database that we have created was Facebook clone. So over here you can see we are inside the Facebook clone database. Let's now see what are the tables available over here. So over here, as you know, we had created 4 tables, one for saving the comment, one for saving status, one for saving the user metadata, and one for saving the Facebook post. So let's go within this user table and let's see what are the data that are available over here. So we'll do a select star from user. So over here you can see these were the 2 user ID that we had created for the testing purpose while we were testing our REST API. Let's now get rid of these 2 entries over here and let's do a fresh start from here. Oops, sorry, this was not the command. The command is truncate table name. So over here you can see that the rows got deleted. So let's check it out one more time. So we'll do again a select star from user. And great, you can see over here all the records got deleted from our Cassandra database. Let's now do a fresh start and let's start inputting the data from our front-end UI. So what we have to do over here, once the user puts the necessary user detail for the sign up activity and click on sign up, over here for successful sign up, we will be sending all this user detail into our backend service, and that is on the backend REST API. So let's see how we will post this data into our backend service. And for that we will be using the fetch API for sending the data into our database. So let's implement that and let's complete the entire flow for the sign up module. So over here, let me write the fetch API by which we can connect and send data from the front-end application to our backend service. So this is the dummy template of the fetch API which will help us to send the data from our front-end to our backend. So let's see what is the payload that we need to save into our database, and let's see what is the endpoint which we need to trigger for saving the data into our database. So the request endpoint that we have created for the user service is API/user service/save, which means that if we post our payload using this API endpoint, then the data will get saved into the database. So let's see how we will implement. So over here, since our backend service is running on port 8080, so we will keep this same. And from here, we will be pointing to the endpoint that we have created. So that is API/user service/save, which means that if we send our payload into this endpoint, the front-end UI will actually invoke this functionality over here which we have created for saving the data, and thus by using this post mapping service we can save the data into our Cassandra database. So let's see the full implementation over here and let's see whether it's working or not. So the first thing that we need to do over here is we need to create the payload over here. So if you remember that while we were saving the data into our Firebase application, this Firebase application is by default is providing a user ID to us. So there is no need for us to implicitly create a user ID for a particular user during sign up. So what we will be doing, we will be making a small change in our backend. So what we will do over here, instead of generating a random user ID over here, we will be using the user ID provided by the Firebase application. And that is why we won't be overriding the user ID over here. So we'll get rid of this code. So I hope this is clear to you that why I have removed implicit declaration of the user ID in our backend code, because the user ID has been already created by the Firebase application for us. But there is a small catch. The problem is the user ID that is getting generated over here by the Firebase application is coming to us in the form of the JSON response, and over there in the response, the format by which we are getting the response of this user ID is in the form of a string. But over here in our code, everywhere we have made the user ID in the form of UID, which actually is a different data type which we have declared over here. So over here within our backend code, we have to change the data type of the user ID, that is from UID to string, so that our backend can easily support the new user ID that is coming from the Firebase application. So let's make that small change over here. So first we'll go to the entity class, and over here instead of making this user ID as UID, we will make it as string. Similarly, we will change all the position which is giving error for the data type. Now let's go to our repo class. So over here, if you remember that while declaring the repository class, we have to mention the data type of our primary key. And since over here the primary key is user ID and right now the data type of it is string, so obviously we have to change the data type from UID to string. And also we will make the similar change in the user service class. And that's it. We are done with changing the data type of our user ID from UID to string. So let's rerun this server one more time and let's build the application. But one more thing I will mention you to do, that is, since we have already created the user table with the data type as UID, sometime it might happen that while integrating the database with this code, it might throw a runtime exception. So it is better that you delete the existing table over there so that a new table gets generated with the new data type over there. So what we will do, we will go to our Cassandra shell and we will get into the user table. So over here, since we do not have any data into our user table right now, so I have intentionally deleted the user table from our database over here, so that the new instance of the user table gets created with the data type of the user ID field as string. So that's it, we are done with our setup. Let's rerun the server one more time so that a new user table gets created in our Cassandra database. So you can see our server is up and running. Let's now post our user metadata from our front end. So right now the user metadata that are required to send as a payload are the user ID, username and the user image. So these are the three necessity attributes that we need to send from our front end. So let's send all these things from our front end. So the value of the user ID we will get from the response we are getting from the Firebase application, which is user.uid. Next comes the username, which is actually the text that is provided by the user during the sign up process. And the last but not the least is the user image. So which we will keep it as a blank because over here still now we have not implemented any functionality for the user to upload an image, and that is why I will be pasting a dummy URL over here just to make the sense of what we need to provide over here. And that's it. This is the payload that we need to have for creating an account into our Firebase application. So let's save it and let's see whether everything is working fine or not. And over here, while testing this application, right now you will see that I will come into one issue during the local development. And if you are also building the same application with me, you will also face the same behavior during your local development. So let's go with testing that application and let's face that error. Otherwise, you won't understand that what is the problem and what is the root cause of that problem. And later over here, I will also tell you that how to solve that problem for your local development. So let's proceed with the testing part of this application. So what we'll do, I will create a new user called as testing. And let's over here click on sign up. Now over here you can see we are in the success block for the Firebase application where we got some user metadata, and over here we got the user ID which we need to save into our database. And this is the name of the user and this is our user image. So let's build the payload over here. So now you can see the entire payload and the request option got generated, and over here we are ready to send this entire payload into our backend service. Let's now see what happens after this. So you can see as soon as I let it go, I am getting an error over here, and let's see the reason what it's telling. So over here, if I go to my network for the same API support which we are running in our backend, we are getting a CORS error over here. So if you have seen my previous video while I was doing the Instagram cloning, over there also you have seen that how easily we have resolved the CORS error for our local development. But if you are new to this video, let me first tell you that what is a CORS error. So the real reason of this CORS error is because of the security issue. So over here if you see that our UI, which is our React application, is running on port 3000, whereas our backend support, that is for the API, is running on the port 8080. And this is the main reason why we are receiving a CORS error from our browser. So this error has nothing to do with your code, but this is because of the browser security feature. We get this error during the time of development. So the resolution of this CORS error is very simple. There can be 2 to 3 type of resolution that you can actually do to solve this problem. So the first one is you can easily install an extension for your Chrome browser, and using that extension you will see that you are no longer receiving the CORS error for your development purpose, because at that time the extension will handle and suppress all the error that you are receiving over here. Number 2, the next alternative of resolving this is you can open the Chrome browser in the unsecure mode, which means that over that time the browser will not look into all this port issue over there, and it will let you develop your code over there without any error. But these are some temporary solution to get rid of the CORS error. But over here what we will be doing is actually done in the production for removing the CORS error. So what we'll do, we'll go to our backend code And over here within our controller class, we will be passing one annotation at the top so that our backend allows a particular request from a different port. So what we'll do, we will write an annotation called as cross origin. And with this annotation in place right now, any request coming from any port will be accepted by your backend code, and in the browser you will receive not a single error during the time of development. So let's also include the cross origin annotation for all other controller service so that we do not have to change at that time. And let's save it and let's reveal this project. Now we are finally ready with our backend support, which is actually 100% ready to accept all the requests that are coming from our front end. So let's now test that functionality over here. So our application is up and running. Let's go to our browser and test the functionality over here. So I will just get rid of all this and we'll reload the browser. So we'll go to the sign up and let's create the testing account over here. So let's click on sign up. So here you can see we got authorized from the Firebase application. So let's proceed further and let's put this data into our backend database, that is Cassandra service. So let's resume this code. And great, you can see we have not received any error over here. So let's go to our network tab, and over here you can see the save API that we have called have given the status code as 200. Which means that the backend is working fine. And you can see in the response over here we got the user ID created from our backend, and this is the metadata for the user ID which got created over there. So let's go to our backend database and let's see whether we got the data into our system or not. So we'll go inside the user database and bingo, you can see here the data got saved into our database with all the metadata that we have sent from our front end. So that's great, we are done with the complete implementation of our authentication system, and over here thus we have done the both sign up and the sign in mechanism for our Facebook app. Now let's do one more thing, that is once the user puts the correct credential over here, we will move the user to our next page, and that is the home page. So for that what we'll do, over here within this success block for the sign in, we will be providing the code so that the user can move forward to our next page, and that is the home page over here. So the way that we will be implementing is by using the cookie service. So what we'll do over here, as soon as a user sign in with the correct credential, obviously we will be in the success block of the Firebase application. And over here, as soon as we land into this success block, we will save the user info into our local storage, that is within the cookie service. So what we'll do, within this local storage, we will set a variable called as user. And over here within this user data, we will be storing the metadata that we are getting as our response. And once we are done with setting up the local storage, we will reload the existing window so that we can move to our next page, that is the home page. So if you are not clear with what I am doing over here, just hold for a minute. I will explain each and everything over here so that it will be easy for you to understand. And that's it. So this is the minimum amount of code that you need for sending the user from our login page to our home page. And we will paste the same code after the user performs a successful sign-in process. So let's over here put the same code and let's click on save. Now one more thing what we have to do is we have to go to our app.js. Over there we have to make some modification over here. So if you remember that while we were implementing the front-end UI in our second video, over there we have created the two components, and that is the navbar and the layout component, which was actually the component for our home page. But to make the process a bit quicker, I have also created one more component, and that is the login home, where we were actually coding all this thing over there. So over here actually we have two pages, one for the home UI and one for the login UI. And over here we have to put a logic so that by seeing the browser cookie we can figure it out that whether the user has successfully logged in or not. So what we'll check over here, we will check that if the local storage is empty or undefined, then the user will land into our login page for the authentication purpose. But if the user data has already been set in the local storage variable, which means that the user has already signed up into our application, and at that time he should land into the home page for our Facebook. And with this logic, we will detect that whether the user have actually signed in or not. So let's save this code and let's see whether the functionality is working fine or not. And after that, I will be explaining you one more time that what the things are going over here. So let's go back to your application and click on refresh. So let me first create a testing account over here. And I will click on sign up. And great, you can see as soon as I clicked on sign up, I have landed to our next page, and that is the home page. So let me show you how this magic happened over here. So if I just go to the console over here, you will see that as soon as I have created a successful login into our Facebook application, at that time within our local storage, that is within the cookie, a variable called as user got created, which contains the definition of the user ID and few other attributes over here. And looking into this content, we have successfully landed into our home page. So let's go to the code one more time and let's see what we have done over here. So as soon as the user have successfully logged in into our application, we are setting a local storage variable called as user. And over there within the user variable, we are setting the response from our backend. And we are reloading our page. And over here, as soon as we are reloading our page, the control is going to the app.js. And over here, we are checking that whether there exists any data in the user variable within the storage or not, which is actually referring to this value over here. And if there exists any value at that time, we will land into our home page. Otherwise, we will land into the login page. And over here, you can see how easily with this simple logic, we have implemented our entire login page for the Facebook application. Let me show you one more time so that it will be very easy for you to understand. So over here you can see we have the user variable within our local cache. And if I just delete this user cache and just refresh this page, you will see that since the data is not there within the local storage, this user will land into the login page since the application have failed to successfully validate this user. So let's reload the browser over here. And great, you can see right now we are within the Facebook login page. And our entire functionality over here is working as we have expected. So let's now log in into our application one more time and let's see what are the remaining functionality that we have to make the complete clone of our Facebook app. So great, you can see our login is also working quite brilliantly. Now let's see what are the additional things that we have to implement over here. So the two main functionality that we have to implement over here, which are more or less similar, are the upload of the status bar and the upload of the post over here. So let's start with building the upload post over here, and let's integrate the backend support to make the entire functionality over here. So the process by which we will be developing and integrating the post service over here is also quite simple. So before implementing the actual code over here, let's first understand what we will be doing over here. So as soon as the user clicks on the photos over here, we have to open a panel by which a user can upload a photo. And for that, we will be using the file browser provided by our HTML tag. And once the user select the photo from their local computer and put some description or comments over here and clicks on submit, what we have to do, we have to call two API. In one API, we will be calling our Firebase application. Over there, we will be sending the image as the parameter. Since over here, we are not saving the image into our local storage unit, rather we are storing all the images in the storage that we have allocated in the Firebase application. So whatever the image that are uploaded by the user while uploading a status will go into the Firebase system. And on successful upload of the image on the Firebase application, over there also the Firebase will send a response with the metadata of the image. And using that metadata that we are getting from the Firebase application, we will be storing those corresponding metadata along with the text description over here into our local Cassandra server using the REST API that we have created for our post service over here. So this will be the complete flow by which we will be implementing the post API over here. So let's start with integrating the Firebase storage over here and let's proceed with the implementation. So first thing what we have to do, we have to go to the Firebase storage and we have to click on get started. So over here you can see as soon as we clicked on get started, it has started setting up the cloud storage over here. So let's click on next, and over here you need to select the location at which you want to save the data into your cloud. So let's click on done, and over here you can see the Firebase application is creating a storage bucket for you guys so that you can upload any image or any data into their storage bucket. So this will take a couple of minutes or so let's wait for some time. And that's it. Over here you can see we have successfully created a storage bucket for our Facebook cloning app. Now over here we have to make a small modification and we have to change a small rule over here. So we'll go to the rules tab over here and we will click on edit rule. So over here I just need to remove this thing from here. So what it actually means that only the user who are authenticated with the Firebase application can upload an image into their Firebase bucket. But as of now, for testing purposes, I'm just removing these two conditions from here and I'm allowing everyone without or with access to read and write file within this bucket. So let's click on publish and that's it. We are done with setting up the storage device for our Facebook cloning app. So let's now start with the implementation of uploading the post into our Firebase application. So the first thing that we have to do over here, on click of this image over here, we have to give the permission to the user to upload a photo over here. So what we'll do over here, we have to give a HTML browse button so that the browse button gives the permission for the user to upload the photo as our post. So what we'll do, we will go to our code and within the upload section.js over here where we were creating the upload image, here only we will include an HTML upload file option so that the user can upload a post over here. So let's see how we will do it. So let's click on save and let's go to the browser. So over here you can see we got an upload button over here. So we actually have to hide this upload button so that the user cannot visualize this button. But the way this will actually work is when the user clicks on this upload image over here, this will automatically open up window browser for user to upload the file. So let's hide this input box over here. So for that what we'll do, we will hide this upload button from the CSS property. So we'll go to the upload section.css and over here we will target the input text box and we will make the display as none. So let's save it and let's see in the browser. So over here you can see we got the upload button over here, and as soon as I click on the upload button, it will open up the window for uploading the file. So this is actually what we need for uploading a post into our Facebook app. So just one thing over here, that after the incorporation of the input bugs, the CSS over here got disrupted. So let's fix that property of CSS. So let's fix this problem. So the problem is we just need to give the display flags over here. So what we will do, I will add the same class, that is upload tab over here. And that's it. You can see the problem which we are facing over here got resolved. So let's also do the same thing over here and let's save it. So over here you can see how beautifully on clicking on the photos or the videos, the pop-up is opening for us to upload an image from our local machine. So that's great. Now the next feature that we have to build over here is on selecting a particular photo from our local machine, we have to open a dialog box something like this. So obviously it won't be having all the properties, but we will make a simple layout something like this so that the user can upload a pic, and before uploading the user can see a preview over here, and over here at the top he can provide an image description and then he can post this image. So let's build this layout in our application. So what we'll do, we will go to our Material UI library and we will find a component something like this. So let's go to the Material UI library, and over here under component we will be using the dialog box over here. So if you go to the component called as dialog box, you will see that it also provides more or less the same kind of behavior that we need for our canvas. So here also you can see it is giving a pop-up something like this. So let's use this dialog box and let's implement the pop-up that we need for our file uploader. So the first component that we need from the material UI library, and that is the dialog box. So let's import this dialog box into our project. So at the top of the upload section over here, we will be importing the dialog box component. So let's go back into our code and let's copy the template over here which it is using. So over here, if you see the template of the dialog box, you can see it have two handlers. One is a onClose which will close the dialog box, and one is the open which will open the dialog box. So let's copy this template from here and let's paste it within our code. So that's great. Now what we have to do, we have to write these two variables in our code. So the first one will be the handle close, and the next one is a state variable called as open, which means that when our page will reload, at that time the value of this open will be false, which means the dialog box will be closed at that time. But as soon as you upload an image over here by using the file uploader that we have created over here, it should open up the dialog box over here. So what we'll do over here on this input box, we will create another unchanged listener which will be responsible for opening up the dialog box. So I think this is clear to you. So once the user have uploaded a particular image over here, the open dialog box will get invoked, which is nothing but this. And as soon as the control comes over here, we have to change the state property of this open and we have to make it true so that the dialog box comes visible over here. And similarly for the close, we will be making this variable as false. As of now, let's put a dummy text over here and let's see whether the functionality is working or not. So let's save it and let's go back to our application. So to test this feature, first we will have to select a photo from our gallery. So let's click over here and let's upload a photo over here. And great, you can see as soon as I have uploaded a photo or selected a photo, a dialog box got created over there. So great, I believe our functionality is working brilliantly. So let's go back to our code and let's implement an image preview like this. So what we'll do, we'll go back to our code and over here we have to create an image placeholder. So since over here we need the image that will get dynamically uploaded while the user is uploading a photo, that is why I will be assigning that image within our state variable. And let's also define the state variable at the top. And as of now, let's get rid of this close listener. So let's save it and let's do one more thing. And that is, while the user upload a particular image, the control will automatically come within this open dialog box. And over here only we have to save the image so that the user can see the preview of the image. So what we'll do, we will assign the upload image over here. So let's first implement it so that it will be easy to understand that what I actually want to do. And that's it. So what I am doing, as soon as the user uploading the image using the file uploader over here, the onChange listener will get invoked. And once the open dialog box get invoked over here, the first thing that we have to do is we have to show the pop-up over here. And to show the pop-up, I am setting the variable open as true. And once this pop-up gets visible for the user, over here I am setting the URL for the image so that it comes as a preview for the user. So let's save it and let's see whether it's actually working or not. So let's go to our browser. So let's over here upload an image. So let's click on open and great, you can see as soon as I upload an image over here, it is coming as a preview over here. So that is great. Now let's decorate this upload image, that is the create post canvas, something like this. So what I will be doing over here, I will be providing a class name to this dialog box. And let's put the class within the CSS file. And over here let's also put two things, and that is, number one is the text field where we can put the text for the particular image, and the post button something like this. So over here we are done with three components, that is the input text box for uploading the description, the image text box for giving the preview, and third is the button for posting the content in the Facebook post. So let's save it and let's see how it is looking in the browser. And great, you can see we got something like this. So over here we have an input text box where we can provide the comment, and over here we have a post button associated for this post. So this is looking more or less fine. Let's now quickly decorate it further so that it looks more or less same. So over here I will just fast forward the video so that the video doesn't get too long and boring for you guys. And that's it. This is looking quite nice. So over here you can see you can provide a comment over here, and also over here after the upload you can click on post to upload this photo. And the one and the final thing that I will be doing over here is I will be adding a header section for our post where we will be pasting a content like create post. So let's quickly do it and finish the upload section over here. And let's save it and let's see how the entire thing is looking right now. So let's click on photos and videos and let's upload a photo from our local storage. And great, you can see we got a upload section, something like what we have on our Facebook app. Right now I definitely believe that if you want to decorate it even further, you can do so by enhancing the CSS property associated with each and every component. But over here, just for the time constraint, I will move forward and I will be doing the implementation part of uploading the image into our Facebook app. So right now what we have to do is on clicking on the post button over here, we have to call two APIs. The first API will upload this image into our Firebase storage, and the second API will save this content over here as well as the response from the Firebase storage, that is the URL of this image upload path, into our Cassandra database. So let's start with the implementation of that part so that we can complete our flow over here. So let's go back to into our code, and over here let's put a on click listener so that on clicking of this button we can upload the image into our Firebase application. So over here we have to write the code to upload the image into the Firebase application. So to get the code, we'll again go to the documentation provided by the Firebase application. So we'll go to the storage, and over here we will be selecting web as our platform, and let's go to the upload file section over here. So if you go down over here, you will see this is the code that you need to have for uploading an image into the Firebase application. So there are plenty of dummy code that are written over here with lots of comments and everything. So I have deleted all this dummy code over here, and I have taken only the bit of the code that is necessary for uploading a video. So let's paste the code over here. So pretty much this is the code that is required for uploading a file successfully into the Firebase application. So let's go through this code and let's understand what we are doing over here. So over here, by using the Firebase application, we are invoking the Firebase storage functionality, and within this Firebase storage we are creating a folder called as image, and within that folder or directory we are uploading the file that is being uploaded by the user. So let's first import this Firebase at the top. And let's also get the reference of the name and image over here. So for that, what we will do over here, when we are uploading the image, here only within this open dialog box we will get the reference of the image and the name over here. And that's it, we are done with the code to upload the data into the Firebase application. So let's save it and let's see whether everything is working fine or not. So right now over here you can see the Firebase storage is right now empty. So let's upload our image over here and let's see whether it is actually working or not. So let's put a debugger over here so that we can see that whether everything is working or not. and let's click on post. So over here you can see on clicking on the post, it had invoked the upload to Firebase method. So over here, this is the name of the image and this is the reference of the file that we are trying to upload. So if everything works fine, it should come within the success block over here. So let's bypass this, and great, you can see that the image got successfully uploaded into the Firebase and it came within the success block over here. So let's go to the Firebase application and let's see whether the image got successfully uploaded here or not. So let's refresh the screen over here. And great, you can see over here we got an image folder, and within this image folder the file which we were trying to upload is over here. So right now each and every component that we have integrated with the Firebase application is working brilliantly. Now the next step what we have over here is the data that is coming from the Firebase application, that is this download URL. Over here we need to save this download URL, that is the reference path of this image at which the file got uploaded in the Firebase application, so that in the later part when we will be creating our home page layout, over that we can give the URL and can retrieve the data from the storage location. So let's go to the console and let's see what is the download URL we got from the Firebase application. So over here you can see this is the download URL which we get as a response to the Firebase application, which means in the later part when we will be building our home page, over there if we try to open this URL, it will reflect to the image that we have uploaded in the Firebase. So I hope you guys are clear with the concept that how we are retrieving and saving the data over here. Let's now save this data which we are getting in the Firebase application into the Cassandra database that we have created into our backend. And for that we will be calling the post service that we have created in the backend. So let's call the fetch API over here. So I will get the same code from the sign in section because the fetch API will be more or less same. And over here in the payload for the post service, we have to change the URL to post service over here. And if you have remembered that while creating the post service, the metadata that we were sending on the post service was the user ID, username, the description of the image, the post URL, the like and the time date. So over here in the post service, we have already created the post ID as the auto-generated ID, and the like and the date count will also be calculated on the backend. So the necessary thing that we have to send on the post URL is this four, which means the user ID, the username, the description and the post URL. So this post URL is nothing but the download URL which we are receiving from our Firebase application. So let's create the payload over here. So the first payload that we will be sending over here is the user ID and the username. And the next two thing is the description and the download URL. So if you know, this post image URL is nothing but this download URL over here, and the description of the post is nothing but the content that is getting uploaded while the user is providing the text over here. So let's capture this text over here. So that's it. Over here we just need to pass the state variable, that is description. Now the next question is from where we will get user ID and the user image for the user who is uploading the photo. So if you have remembered that in our browser storage we already have captured the user ID and the username that we have stored over here. So let's get the two details from here. So what we'll do, we'll try to get local storage variable over here. Similarly for the username, we will be also doing the same thing. And that's it. So on the success of this method, we will be creating the payload that we need to save into our database. And over here we are calling the service API, and that is the post service /API. So if everything works fine, we will land over here on the success block for our API. So let's save it and let's test out the entire flow so that we can confirm that everything is working as expected. One more small thing I have to change over here, that is over here I am pointing the state variable as this.state.description. So normally it is fine, but since this is the async call and this is within the async block over here, That is why there will be a problem during runtime, because this context is not available within this async block over here. So what we have to do before going within this async block, we need to capture the context of this over here. So let's do the small change over here so that our code doesn't break on the runtime. So that's it. Let's now run the entire code and let's see whether each and every functionality that we have developed over here is working or not. So first we'll go to our application and we will open the developer console to see that whether all the calls are going successfully or not. So from here, let's first select a photo that we need to upload and let's click on open. So over here you can see our canvas got open where we can share our post, and let's click on post over here. And great, you can see we have not got any error, and in the response to this API we have got the post that got created on our backend, which means that the post has successfully created on the Firebase application as well as it got uploaded into our Cassandra database. So let's check the two applications, that is the Cassandra and the Firebase application, whether this post got successfully uploaded or not. So let's first go to the Firebase application and let's reload the screen. So great, over here you can see this is the image that we have uploaded recently. So let's now go to the Cassandra service and let's see whether the data is there or not. So for that we will go inside the Cassandra console and we will check that whether the data is there or not. So I hope you have remembered that the table at which we were saving the post was the Facebook post over here. So let's see what are the data available over here. And great, you can see we got the data that we have saved over here. So since this is a huge data, you see that this is not properly aligned, so that is fine. So over here you can see this is the post ID which we have successfully created in our backend. This is the date and timestamp at which we have posted the content. This is the description of the post which we have provided from our UI over here. Number 2 is the image URL which is blank, and since right now it is blank, it is coming as null, which is also fine. The total number of like count is 0. The post URL is the download link which we got from the Firebase application. So basically using this URL, later we will be building our Facebook homepage where we will be displaying each and every post and we will be providing all the comments and necessary details over there. After that we have the user ID who have uploaded the post, and then come the username. So I hope this is fine. I hope the data that we are receiving over here is fine. The only thing that are missing over here is the username and the user image. So that's great. So everything is right now working fine. So the only thing that we have to do is on successful upload of the image into our backend, we have to close this canvas, and also the corresponding post should come up over here in our dashboard. So let's implement the simple behavior and let's complete the entire flow over here. So the first thing that we will be doing is we will be closing the canvas after the successful upload. So for that what we have to do on successful upload over here, we need to set the value of this open as false. So what we'll do over here on successful upload on the database, we will be setting the value as false. And one more small thing that I have to change over here, and that is over here if you just go to the local storage and see the content that is available over here, you will see the content doesn't have the username which we need for retrieving the user detail, and also it doesn't have the user image over here. And the reason why it is happening is because over here we did a small mistake, and that is on the login home page, instead of saving the data that is coming from our API, we were saving the data that is coming from the Firebase application, and that is the reason why there is no user ID and the user image over here. So I hope this is clear to you. So let's change this from user to data. And similarly over here for the sign in, here after the successful login from the Firebase application, we just need to call user API one more time to get the data that is saved into our database. So what we'll do over here, we will again call the API that we have created for getting the user data. So this will be a GET request, so you do not have to give the request parameters. And over here we will be using the service that we have created, and that is get all user detail. So let's implement that and let's make the things working over here. So that is the total change that you have to do over here. So let's close everything and let's test the application from the start. So we will clear the cache over here. So let's create a fresh account over here so that we can create a new local storage. So let's click on sign up, and great, you can see that we have logged into our application. Let's now see the local cache, that whether the user ID and the username got created or not. So we'll go to the application, and yes, over here you can see this is the data which we are returning from our API service. And over here we have the join-in date, the activity status, the user ID, the user image, and the username also. So this is basically the data that we need to submit into our database while submitting the post. So over here, since the name is different, so we will change the local cache name over here. So instead of UID, it will be user ID, and the username will be same. And that's it. So let's save it and let's upload our image over here. And so now everything should work fine. So let's click on photos and videos and let's upload our image over here. And let's click on post. And great, you can see that as soon as that all the data got successfully submitted into our database as well as in the Firebase application, the upload canvas that was open over here got closed. So right now everything is working brilliantly. So let's go to the database and let's see the entries over here. So over here you can see we got our second post, and that is this one. And this time the username field is not at all blank, which is great. So all the data that we are sending from our front end is actually going into the database. And one more additional feature that we have to implement over here, that is auto refresh, which means that whenever an user uploads a content over here by using our upload manager, the home screen, that is this layout, should also get automatically refreshed while the photo gets successfully uploaded into the database. But right now what is happening, on successful upload, though the data are going into the database, this canvas is not getting updated automatically. It will only get updated only if I do a browser refresh over here. So let's implement this automatic update over here. So let's see how we will do it. So over here, if you remember that we have the main component, that is layout.js, and within this layout.js we have two sections. One is the upload section and one is the post container section. And this post container section is actually referring to the home canvas over here. And within this post container, that is within the home canvas, we have the functionality that is get data, which means that it will make the Ajax call over here and it will retrieve the value from our backend. And over here within this upload container, we have the code to upload the data into the Firebase application. So right now over here you can see the two functions are lying on the two different components. So we need to implement the functionality such that on successful upload over here, it should internally call the get data functionality over here to refresh the canvas for our home screen, which will actually look like that our home page got successfully refreshed. So let's see how we will do it over here. So the first thing that what we will be doing over here, we will be writing a function called as listUpdate. And from this parent function, we will be calling the function that is residing within our post container. So what we'll do, first we need to refer this child component over here. So the thing that we will be implementing over here is the way by which the two components communicates with each other. So what we'll do, first we will create a reference variable over here called as child. And over here first we will get the reference of this child variable over here. And we will call the function get data from here, which is actually residing within the post container over here. So I think this is clear to you. So first what I am doing, first I am getting the reference of this child component, that is post container, and over here I am calling the function that is get data. So now what I have to do within our next child, that is the upload section, over here I need to pass this function as our parameter so that on successful upload it can call the parent function, that is this one. So let's implement so that it will be clear to you. And over here I will be passing the function that is list update. So let's save it and let's go to the function called as upload section. And over here within this upload section function, once everything gets successfully uploaded into the database, which means over here I will be calling the function which I am passing as our parameter. And that's it. So I hope this is clear to you. So what I am doing over here on the upload section, once the data gets successfully uploaded over here, I am calling the parent function that I am passing over here as a props variable, and the function that is calling over here is list update over here, which is internally calling the child method that is associated within the post container over here. So I hope this functionality is clear to you, and with this functionality we will be implementing the auto refresh functionality over here. So let's save it and let's test out the functionality, and let's update a post over here. But there is one more small catch that you also have to resolve, which I will be leaving it on you. But let's see what is the problem. So let's first upload the photo from here. So let's upload this post. So over here if you want you can keep a loader so that it will be much more friendly for the user. So over here you can see that the post got successfully submitted, but the canvas has not refreshed till yet. But if you look carefully, the canvas have actually got refreshed. Let me tell you why. So what is happening, you can see if you scroll down, you can see the post is residing somewhere at the bottom of our canvas. But the ideal way to implement is the image or the post that is updated recently should reside at the top. So since the data are coming from our Cassandra repository arbitrarily, that is why over here the latest post is going at the bottom. So what we have to do on our backend service, which means over here, while the data are coming from the post service, over here instead of just sending the value from the database, we also need to sort this data by the descending order of the timestamp at which it got uploaded. So hopefully that makes sense to you. So if we sort all the lists in the descending order of our upload time of the post, then the latest post will be at the top. So by implementing that small feature, you can easily mimic the exact clone of your Facebook app over here. But I will be leaving that feature on you guys so that you can take that as your enhancement problem. But if you really do not know how to code that, do not worry, I will be providing that code in the description below. Feel free to go through that code and do let me know if you are facing any problem. Now let's proceed with our next component, and that is the status bar over here. So the way the status bar and the post component works over here is more or less same. So we won't be wasting much time on the status bar. Rather, I will be fast forwarding the video so that I can complete this thing quickly, and unnecessary the video should not get too long. So let's start with implementing the status canvas over here. So the first thing that we will be doing over here in the status canvas is we have to give a create icon something like this. So on the first tab I will be giving a create button something like this, and once the user clicks on that plus icon, a pop-up something like this will open up so that a user can select an image and can upload a status for himself. So let's start with the implementation of the status bar over here. So over here also, once the user upload a photo over here by using the file uploader, I have attached an on-change listener over here. And once the files get uploaded over here, it comes on the on-change listener, and within this method, we are calling the same functionality that is supplied by the Firebase application. And within the same bucket, I'm creating one more directory called as status, where we will be uploading all the images for our status post. And on successful upload of the status on the Firebase application, we are sending the data in the form of the payload into our backend service, which is nothing but the status service /save. So let's save it and let's test out this entire functionality. So you can see over here we got the image that we have uploaded over here, so that is fine. And over here you can see we got the successful response from the Firebase application, which means that the image got successfully uploaded on the Firebase storage application. So let's go to the Firebase and let's see whether it is residing on the storage or not. And great, you can see over here we got two folders. One is the images for uploading the post and one is the status for uploading the status over here. So let's go into the status, and this is the post that we have uploaded as a status. So let's go back over here and let's see whether our backend is also working or not. So over here you can see we have not got any error. So let's go to the network tab and let's see the output. So here you can see that on the network tab, we got the success response from our backend service. But only thing you can see that the status URL, which is actually the main component over here, is missing. So let's see what is the reason over here. So the reason why we are getting the error over here is because the name of the variable over here is status image URL, which we have given wrong in our front end. So let's copy this and let's paste it over here. So I hope right now everything will work brilliantly. Let's go back to our UI and let's upload one more image from here. So hopefully everything got uploaded successfully. Let's go into our database and let's see the data over there. And great, you can see this is the second entry that we have done over here and it is coming great. So over here we have the status ID, which is an auto-generated ID, the URL for the status, that is reference path of our image, the date and timestamp as the user ID. So all the data that we have posted over here has got successfully uploaded. So brilliant. Now the next thing that we have to do over here is we just need to show the data over here in the status bar section, which is actually a simple process to display in the UI. So let's start with building that activity. So let's save it and hopefully everything will work over here. So great, you can see over here a small status, something like this. Let's upload one more image so that we can see the exact style that we need to upload over there. So great, you can see this is looking quite nice. Again, you can see the status bar is not getting automatically refreshed over here. I hope you guys also know the reason over here. So great, this is looking almost same. Let's now provide a border radius over here. So great, you can see this is looking quite nice the way the status is getting uploaded over here. So if you want, we can upload one more status and let's see that whether everything is working or not. So let's upload my own pic, and brilliant, you can see that the image is coming quite nicely. Only thing you can see that there is some bit of resolution and compression that is happening over here, and I believe that we can easily ignore those minute detail over here because this is a testing app where I really want you guys to learn how the functionalities are working over here. So over here you can see that how efficiently we have created the status bar over here, post component over here, and also how easily we have created the upload section over here. Let's now build the last and the final component over here, and that is the contact section over here, which is nothing but just displaying the name of all the users that are available on our Facebook app. So I believe you guys can easily do it at your home. So let's get back once I'm done with implementing all the stuffs over here. So let's start with implementing this canvas over here. And that's it. Over here you can see I am done with the integration of the contact section over here. So over here the code which I have written is quite simple. I have just called the fetch URL to retrieve all the users that are available into our database. And whoever has the status flag as active, over here you can see I have given a small badge like online icon over here, which is easily available in the Material UI library. Over here you can see we have added a badge something like this. So here you can see if the status is true, means the person is online, then over here we are adding a circular badge which is actually green in color. And that is the only implementation I have done over here. And one more thing that I have incorporated over here is the comment section where you can post the comment that you want. So let's give a comment over here and let's click on enter. So here you can see as soon as I clicked on enter, the comment got submitted over here, and it is also showing the total number of comments over here. So right now over here on this layout, I'm allowing 3 comments over here to display for the user. So if you want to enhance this functionality, you can easily do so by giving an expander button over here, so that on clicking on that expand button, all the comments for this post which are hidden over here will come up for the user. So that is the small modification that you have to do over here. And one more thing, you can see I have added a small profile picture for each and every user, which you can easily consider as a hard-coded image, because on the code I am randomly applying the images to each and every user over here. So here you can see I am getting a number from 0 to 9, and over here based on the image ID I am randomly attaching an image over here as a profile picture. So all the profile picture that you need also for the implementation I have already listed over here. So over here you can see I have listed down all the profile picture from 0 to 9. So whenever a user is creating an entry into our application, means whenever he is signing, one of the profile picture from this 9 images will get associated with his ID. And thus with that logic we are giving a profile picture over here. So I believe you really like the way we have cloned each and every component over here. So this is basically our clone Facebook, and this is the actual Facebook which we have over here. So pretty much you can say there is not much more difference between the real and the clone application over here. And you will get the entire code into my GitHub profile, and I will give the URL in the description below. Feel free to go through that code and try to understand each and every component that we have designed over here. So just before completing this video, let's give a dummy run of our application. So let me create a new user and let's start from the beginning. Let's name it as technical interview. And let's click on sign up. So here you can see, so as soon as I have entered our Facebook application with a new user called as technical interview, over here a new profile got created called as technical interview. And if you look carefully, all the images that are associated with the technical interview are the same, which is one of the main property of this application. Let's now upload one more post form here and let's see whether everything is working or not. So over here you can see I have uploaded an image, and over here I have given a description to my image, which is please do like and share this video. And if you are new to my channel, do not forget to hit the subscribe button so that you never miss an update from my side. So let's click on post and let's see whether everything is working or not. So let me click on post. And great, over here you can see our post got successfully uploaded into our Facebook application, and this is looking quite brilliant. Let's upload one more status over here to see whether this functionality is working or not. And brilliant, you can see the new status is already there, which we have uploaded right now. So this was the complete video of how to do the entire cloning of our Facebook app using the Spring Boot application. So hopefully you have thoroughly liked the video, and if you have liked the video, do not forget to like and share this video. And if you are new to my channel, do not forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you never miss an update from my side and you're always ready for your next interview. So without wasting much time, let's start with the deployment process. So over here, I won't be deploying the entire code over here, but I will be attaching a relevant video of deployment where I have told you in detail that how you can deploy a Spring Boot application, that is the Spring Boot microservices, into the cloud platform, and also how to deploy a front-end microservice that is built on the React platform into the Heroku server. So over here for the deployment of this application, we have used the Heroku server for our deployment purpose. So if you found any problem during the deployment process, feel free to let me know. I will be happy to help you over there. So hopefully you guys have thoroughly liked this video and you have liked the way we have cloned each and every component over here, starting from building the UI from the scratch using the React framework and then creating the required backend support using the Spring Boot application. So hopefully if you like this video, do let me know in the comment section below, because depending on your feedback on my next video, I will be cloning the entire messenger service that we have over here, starting from building the messenger UI till the way you can send a message to your friend using the peer-to-peer connection. So see you on the next video. Thank you.